Hey everyone, Amar here. In this video I'll be talking about how you are not your thoughts. I'll also be sharing with you a couple of practical exercises that you can begin to do to detach from your thoughts. So you can actually have the experience of not being your thoughts, which I think is one of the most profound realizations that you can have in this human life. It's what's going to transform everything for you. Once you can begin to let go and realize that you're not your thoughts, right? Unfortunately, the nature of the world that we live in, nearly everyone is identified with thoughts. They do believe that the thoughts they think and the internal dialogue they experience is who they are. But what if that ain't true? And I'm going to hopefully help you have that realization for yourself through these exercises I'm going to share. So before we get into these exercises, I would just quickly like to talk about thoughts, right? So they run our lives. We have certain thought patterns and usually an internal dialogue which goes along with that, which is really just old tapes being played out. So whatever programming we received when we were much younger, that's usually going to determine the quality of thoughts that we have. And these tapes usually just run on autopilot, which really influence our perception and our quality of life and the way we experience everything. And it's very, very limiting to live that way. I mean, if you think about it on a grand scale, if all you are is your programming, it's so disempowering. So with that, I'd like to welcome you to embrace the possibility that maybe you are more than just your programming. So a lot of these tapes just run automatically. You create an identity out of them about who you are and who you think you should be and what society wants you to be. And you create this idea, let's call it, an image, and you're constantly trying to hold it. You're having thoughts which either contradict it or reinforce it. And that internal dialogue is always just playing, letting you know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, what you shouldn't be doing. And it creates a lot of disturbance, a lot of suffering. Imagine if you didn't have to listen to none of that stuff. Imagine you could just be who you want to be right now. Not to worry, just show up as your fullest expression, which is actually your most powerful self, which is actually the person that you would like the most. Okay? Independent of what you think you should be, your true self is something that is really inherent and deep, and you can only really experience that once you learn to let go of your thinking. The reason you struggle to disidentify from your thinking, an internal dialogue, is because it's just so close. It's literally been there for most of your life. This voice, these thoughts. Because they've always been there and they're so close, like they literally feel like they're going on inside you, you feel like that's me. And because they're so close, that's why we confuse ourselves as them. Whereas detachment from them thoughts will allow us to see that we are not them. And I can watch my thoughts. I can disidentify from them. I can take my power back. I don't have to believe everything I think. It's so freeing. It's one of the most transformative things you can ever experience, right? So what I'd like to do now is just to get into these couple of exercises. You could call them philosophies to live by. One's like a contemplation exercise that you should implement in your life right away and practice all the time to have this experience. So the first thing is acceptance. I'm going to use the board here just to reinforce my point. Acceptance. I'll just do that now, save a bit of time. So acceptance is obviously, it's allowing any thoughts to come up. This is mainly for negative thought patterns. If you ask someone who struggles with anxiety and you get really bogged down with bad negative thinking, believe it or not, the way out of that is to allow them, is to accept them, is to not fight them. This is similar to the letting go strategy, the letting go technique, which I have quite a long video on, which I'll link up here if you want to go ahead and check that out. But really, when we allow the energy or the emotion which is behind the thought to run itself out. because all your thoughts have an emotional undercurrent. There's some emotion which is reinforcing the quality of thoughts that you're having. So if you're having a lot of anxiety or fear-based thoughts, then there's a lot of fear, the emotion of fear underneath the thought. And by allowing and accepting these thoughts, not fighting them, it allows the energy, the emotion behind it to kind of run its course and run through you. And eventually when the thoughts run out, or when this emotion underneath the thought runs out, the thought will run out of steam. There'll be nothing to keep that momentum going, right? So acceptance and allowance. Don't fight the thought. You can't win. Which takes me on to my second point, which is do not engage. This one is so important. It works quite well with the first step of acceptance and allowing. Do not engage. Seriously, do not engage. When they come up, don't resist them. Don't try to figure them out. Don't ruminate on them. Don't do anything with them. Just let them come. As soon as you engage, as soon as you try to figure it out or start ruminating, it's too late. You'll fall. It's like a slippery slope. I would say in clock time, you have a couple of seconds at the beginning of when that thought first shows up to not engage with it. Just don't engage. Let it be, let it come up, let it do what it wants. But as soon as you engage, it's a slippery slope and you could be stuck ruminating on that thought for hours, days, weeks, months, years. Seriously. So all I'm saying is that's your opportunity when that thought first arises, is don't engage with it. Over time, as you begin to allow and accept and don't engage, it'll run out of energy. Your engagement with it energizes it. So if you do start resisting it or overthinking about it or trying to figure it out, you're actually giving it energy, and that's what keeps it going. So detach. Let it be. Don't engage. Don't engage with it. Just be like, whatever. Okay, so that leads me on to the third strategy, which is contemplation. I think I've spelled that right. And really, this is just an exercise in of itself, a very powerful exercise, which I think Buddhist monks and teachers teach the disciples, I guess. And it is to say, get in a meditation, and when you're having certain thoughts, simply ask a question. What is aware of the thought? What is aware of the thought? Because most of us feel like the thought is me because it's so close, but we don't always realize that something's aware of the thought. If there wasn't something else there that's aware of the thought, you wouldn't be aware of it. You would literally be the thought. Are you a thought? Like, really? You know you're not a thought. By asking this question, what is aware of the thought, we draw our attention to the observer of the thought. We could say there's two things present. There's the thought and there's something that's aware of the thought. It's that thing that's aware of the thought, whatever it is, I'm trying to draw your attention to. By asking this question, what is aware of the thought, will draw your attention to that. Let me just quickly show you a quick diagram for what this looks like. So everything that happens in your experience, let's say, happens within your awareness. There's thoughts. These are all the different weird thoughts you have. Well, I don't know if they're weird, but probably they are. And then here's your emotions, your experience. And senses, everything you sense, like you see. So all these things register within this awareness. Everything is registering within you, right? I think most people have this experience. Now, by you asking that question, what is aware of the thought, you're taking your attention away from the thought and actually taking it to this awareness which is aware of everything in your experience. And the more you do this, the more you begin to realize this, like doing this meditation maybe every day and contemplating this and asking this question, you'll gradually break through. You'll gradually begin to realize what this space is. And as you do that, you'll begin to identify with it more. The more you begin to identify with that space, you start to take energy back from these thought patterns and emotions which were running you unconsciously. You start to reclaim it because you realize these thoughts are not you. And as you begin to do that, all that energy you would invested in keeping this identity alive just begins to fall away. The identity begins to fall away and you just take the energy back. I mean, it's really, really cool if you think about it. And then you grow and then life becomes unlimited and you stop limiting yourself based on some crazy programming you received much earlier in your lifetime. So the key is to identify with the space and asking that question in meditation every time you have a thought. What is aware of the thought? At the beginning it might be hard. At the beginning you might think you're going crazy, but consistently done over time you'll get the answer. Something that I like to do, it's a bit weird, is I'll ask the question, what is aware of the thought? And then I'll ask the question, well, what is aware of me asking that question? So then I get in this crazy loop. But the crazy loop I get into is directing me toward this space. Indirectly directing me there. It's a very difficult thing to direct you toward, this awareness that is aware of everything. But this question I think is quite helpful to just create that space, detach from your thoughts. And like I said, as soon as you do that and you start to reclaim that energy, you won't ever want to be that person again. You will happily let them go, right? And this is one of the first keys, is to disidentify from thought and let them go. Because that ain't you. Never going to be you. Okay, the life of freedom is somewhere else. The mind was never meant to have so much control over our experience. You've probably heard the famous spiritual quote, it's like the mind was meant to be the servant, but it's become the master. So all we're doing is taking our power back. And then that means our mind will actually work better. Our mind will be more intelligent, more creative, more free. Because it's not bound into these rigid structures that of what we think we should do or what we think we shouldn't. We free the mind by disassociating from our thoughts. Right? So it's very, very powerful stuff. I really recommend, if there's one thing you should practice, this probably one of them, is to just take as long as you need on detaching from thought. It's scary, yeah, but worth it. One of the most worthwhile things you will ever do. When you realize that you are not your thoughts, it's like there's a shift in consciousness. Imagine that there's a door, the door has been shut all the time. Now, when you have this realization, it's like the door's creaked open and there's light there. Once you see that light, you ain't going to let it go. And that's what these exercises, I hope, will help you realize. Like there's light behind that door that's been shut for so long. Once you have that realization that you're not your thoughts, is a shift in consciousness occurs which is going to influence everything in your life. You won't let it go because it's that powerful. It'll resonate with you on such a deep level that you know that is the truth, that is the direction you need to go. That is what is going to really change your life. That's how powerful this work is. Okay, so with that, I'm going to finish the video. If you did enjoy it, you know what to do. Give it a thumbs up, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. But until next time, remember to keep living free and being free. Peace.